at what point do you say to yourself, I'm going to go to LA? Was it Playboy? Is that what happened?
Yeah, 23 years old. I graduated from LSU.
Okay.
I got a history degree, and what does one do with that? They just keep bartending. So I was still
You
a
wanted to be a
bartender.
journalism major, right?
I wasn't sure what I wanted.
I wanted to do that too.
I did some mass comm classes, but I was actually really deterred when one of our professors said that you'd be fired for being a reporter if you wore sexy Halloween costumes.
Yeah.
And they actually had like article proof of that. And I remember thinking, well, I'm out. Like I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And yeah, so I graduated with a history degree because I had a scholarship and I just needed to get something to prove that I went to college. And I did that. And so I was still bartending, and I thought, if I'm going to bartend, let me go somewhere that's more exciting and I can make more money. So I thought Vegas or LA. And at the time I had posted Instagram selfies, and I sort of had kind of a weird following for just being some chick in Louisiana. And I thought LA would be the more difficult decision. So I made that one, and I moved here with no job and $3,000 and 200,000 Instagram followers, but that didn't do anything for you back then.
It's interesting you said that. You said I chose LA because it was the more difficult decision.
Yeah.
I did the same thing.
You did?
Yeah, because I was in New York and I was doing okay. I was doing comedy in New York, and I just thought, oh, it's going to be hard to move to LA, but maybe it'll be worth it. Is that what you thought?
I had a boss at the time, and he said, if everything worked out, which would you have chosen? And I was like, definitely LA. The LA would be the choice. And he said, that's where you go.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, okay.
And it worked out.
It did.
And so you
took a while.
You go to the Playboy Mansion, and who is there? Mr. Dan Bilzerian.
Yes, Dan.
Who I have some friends that know him, say nothing but good things.
Yeah.
Very kind guy.
Yeah.
And you seem to speak very highly of him.
I think he's cool.
Yeah, I do
cool.
too.
Yeah.
My friend Harry Jowsey just went and saw him for a couple days. Do you know Harry?
I know of this guy.
Harry Jowsey's a great...
I'm not in the mix. I feel like I'm not cool.
Harry Jowsey's this incredible guy. He's from Australia.
Yeah.
He's really good looking, and he's really fun. And he's really, Australian people are just wild.
Yeah, they live by a different set of rules. For sure.
He'll just talk about his asshole or whatever. You know what I mean? He'll talk about anything. And when he does it, it's not creepy. But if I talk about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just good at it. And so then, he was out. I saw him. He said he was out with Dan for a while doing all the activities, water skiing, and
so many activities.
Everything. And so he walked up to you at a party. And how did you meet him?
His security walked up to me.
Yeah.
I just walked in the Playboy Mansion, and somehow I weaseled my way into the mansion on its own. I didn't know anyone in LA.
Were you already in the magazine?
No. No, I had modeled for the website.
Yep.
But it didn't warrant an invite to the mansion or anything like that. And when I moved here, I went out to Warwick, which is down the street.
I know it.
And I met these random people, and they said, we could sneak you in tomorrow. And so I just met these strangers at a bus, at the Roosevelt, and then we made our way up there. So anyway, I go to get my first drink, and some man comes up to me and he says, hey, do you guys want to meet Dan Bilzerian? And I was like, okay.
And you knew who he was?
I did know who he was, yeah. And I went up and met him, and he said, I like the way you jiggle. And I was like, okay. And I was 23, so, it doesn't really take much to be
That's the
flattered.
opening line.
Yeah. I said, this is what the real thing looks like. That's exactly what I said.
And it's on.
Then it was on. We hung out. We, explored the mansion. We ended up going back to his house, which was...
Great.
That was the most insane part. It wasn't the Playboy Mansion. It was his beautiful home in the Hollywood Hills with the chef and the huge array of food and the view. I was like, if I died tonight, this would not be bad.
It is something when you see a good spread of food like that.
Yeah, the food was one, but the whole scene was so awe-inspiring because I'm from Louisiana. We don't really have we don't even have a lot of wealthy people there that at least I know of. I don't know them. So I'd never seen... a home that looked like this. I'd never been in a Rolls Royce. All that happened in one night. It was pretty interesting.
You were just swept off your feet, and then he sort of, right?
Well,
then,
it was.
It's intoxicating if you're 23 years old.
Definitely.
To see all that for the first time. I remember the only thing I can compare it to is when I was 21. I worked at Saturday Night Live.
Sick.
And that to me was a lot of opulence, all the
It's
food
sick.
that would come in, all the presents, all the gifts, I got to ride in a car even though I was only an intern, and being with Adam Sandler and stuff like that. So I'm sure for you, it's unreal.
Yeah, no, and there were cool celebrities that would go to his house. I met Vin Diesel and Ludacris, and Chris Brown would be there.
Really? What's Vin Diesel like?
Cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. We didn't have much of a conversation. I think Ludacris is the coolest person alive.
Yeah, he seems like a cool guy.
He's really
he was great on the Justin Bieber roast.
But yeah, Dan's house was cool. But Dan was really honest. He was like, look, I don't do the girlfriend thing. I'm not looking for that, but you're really cool and I'd love to hang out. And I was 23 and a bartender, so I'm like, okay, yeah, every now and then. And I'll never forget one day I was bartending at the Avalon, which is down the street.
Yeah.
And he texted me, he's like, hey, do you want to get in Steve Aoki's helicopter and go to Vegas to go see some show? And I said I had to bartend. I was like, no, I have to work. Like, in hindsight, fuck the job, figure that out later, like, go. But I didn't. I stayed bartending, and
You did?
I turned it down.
That probably made him, like, want you even more.
Maybe so.
Right?
I don't know.
Like, say no to somebody who's really powerful.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that guys out there who are watching this, be honest, be upfront right away, right? Because that goes a long way with...
Okay, you know how we're in a culture of, like, misogyny podcasts?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
You're on
you got to
one.
be worried about any podcast you go on. Like, I did my homework. But it's like a landmine not going to a misogyny pod. You're just like, oh, is this going to be one? No.
I hope it didn't come up. You're talking about like Andrew Tate.
No, just like misogyny fucking pods where you go on there and people laugh in your face and like their goal is to make you look dumb. And there's usually like 3 against 1 and they're all fugly. Yep. And it's like, but anyway, where are we going with this? Oh, but the misogyny pods, they all have this horrible advice about tricking and manipulating and demeaning to get women. I have dated really handsome Lothario type men, and they are not nasty to women. Yeah. And just like the reason I'm cool with Dan is because day one he was honest and he wasn't playing a silly game with me, and that's why people like to be around him. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, it's not, is it? Why do guys do that? Why do they feel like they need to lie?
I don't fucking know. It's like the answer is right there in front of us. It's just be nice. And look, I think a lot of people think bad boys get girls.
Yeah.
And I think people are leaving out the part where sex appeal can matter. Like women, I think there's a lot of talk about how women can be sexier and look better and, you know, be their best, whatever. How many misogyny pods are talking about straight up sex appeal? Mm-hmm. Like, when is the last time these people have focused on just alluring women by being great? Yeah. I don't know.
My friend said something the other day. I just said, oh, is your other friend going to hook up with him? And she goes, no, he's a doctor. And I go, well, what does that mean? And she goes, well, he's not like an entrepreneur. He's not like out there like doing something. Oh. And I was like, oh.
Interesting.
Because I still don't understand women. Like I'm trying.
I could explain us.
Please.
It's really not that hard.
Explain it to our listeners.
I think the best rule of thumb I've heard is to just expect what you offer and offer what you expect. So hold
on, I'm stupid.
Okay.
Expect what you offer.
Yeah. And offer what you expect. So if the reasons you're into some girl is that she is smoking hot and she's creative and she, you know, makes her own money and does all this stuff, at least offer that. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's kind of a good rule of thumb that this is going to match up and work out. But I think sometimes people are expecting things they don't offer themselves. And that is the most entitled, dumb, like, plan of all time. And look at the internet and how much content is out there about being sexier and appealing to women. I
think the internet also confuses everybody.
Yeah.
A lot. True. And I think we're all guilty of it. It's like, okay, you know, here's like I was in Europe last week and like you go to post for the brand and you're like, well, I have to make this look as good as possible. Yeah. And then I came back and everybody was like, oh my God, it looks like you had so much fun. And I was like, nah, it's all right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, and so when somebody sees like, you know, your picture and you're in a bikini, they just assume one thing and it's just not real. It's not, you know, who you are.
No.
Right? You don't always wake up and play with a water hose in the backyard.
I look like a potato 4 out of 7 days of the week.
Okay, so you started dating Dan.
Yeah.
And that you basically get a lot of followers from that, right?
Yeah, and I moved here. It was probably 250,000 around that time.
Pretty good.
Huge, actually. And at that time, that was so many people. And Dan was like, "I'm going to make you internet famous," and I was like, you know, whatever. Right. Give me another shot of alcohol.
Yeah.
And he set up my first viral photo shoot where I ran in slow motion in this like white tank top bikini.
Yeah.
Or white tank top, and it got like 10 million views. And then he would post me at the same time. So I had 1 million followers in about a month.
Oh my God.
It was interesting. And I was still working at the bar, you know?
You were?
Yeah.
People come into the bar and recognize you?
A little bit. Yeah. My coworkers really hated me. They sucked. They were not thrilled that it was just working out for me pretty fast.
They were jealous.
They were pissed.
Yeah.
And we split tips. I was doing like philanthropy in there.
I had a friend. He was like famous on Vine, and he was working at El Pollo Loco.
Oh shit.
And the person came in and was like, oh shit. He's like, are you that guy from Vine? And then he literally said, rice or beans, like right after that. Like, it was like really embarrassing. But then again, not embarrassing too. It's like, there is something about like those days when that's honestly the best time is when you have the job at the bar and 1 million followers.
Maybe.
In a way.
It was so confusing for me because I just thought, people would always say, if I had your following, I'd be doing this and that and this. But I was 23. My brain wasn't even developed yet.
Yeah.
But I had fully developed. So I had no idea what the fuck I was supposed to do. And this was before Instagram and the internet was a career. Mm-hmm. There wasn't this like, I want to be viral. I mean, there was, but it was more like for shits and giggles. Like there wasn't just this paycheck behind it.
What was the first like brand that came to you?
Protein World.
And how much did they pay you?
$300 for one of the posts. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but yeah, Protein World. I got paid $300 to post a protein shake. And at the bar, I would make like $250. And I thought, okay, I just made this in 30 seconds, so now I'm going to quit my job. And I called and I quit my bartending job. And then about an hour later, I called back and asked for it back. And they said, you should just go figure your stuff out and then call us if you need us.
Why did you call back after an hour? You
scared to death. I had no job. I didn't know. It was such a risky thing to do. But that was the last job I ever clocked into in my life.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. And so when you're living this lifestyle with Dan, and is it tough to bring 17 girls with you everywhere you go? Because that's when I would look at those posts, I'd be like, Amber forgot her phone.
It looks exhausting.
Or that like somebody's like, I just imagine you guys get in the Sprinter van and someone's like, oh my God, my purse.
I don't know if the quantity was the same back then. Like I don't remember being like Sprinter vans of so many people.
Yeah.
But I do remember there'd be parties and people would meet up and there would be like hot girls around. But I could see like one of our trips when we went to Colorado, there was like 4 people in the plane. Okay. Me, my friend, and a guy friend.
So after you were gone, more people came in probably.
I don't know. I didn't keep up.
Right.